And it is for your well-being. Your soul benefits, your spirit benefits. Chains drop off. These, I say that metaphorically. They fall away. And it's the same when we honor our parents, when we love them, even if they don't deserve it. They may never return that love to you. You may never reconcile fully, and I speak to those who have had difficult relationships with your parents. Or you may be amazed because as time moves on, hearts soften, or can soften. And it may take one little movement of you and I towards those that have hurt us in the past, and suddenly it just opens up and there's a reconciliation. Big God bless you from me, Rory Alec. It's lovely to be with you on this Tuesday. We are screaming through April. Can you believe it? As the time of recording, 11th of April, morning, noon or night. Thanks for having me join you for a few moments, and I'm appreciating your company. Even though I might never meet you in this life, it's lovely to know that you're here. Let me know that you're watching and where you're watching from. You can send a quick comment on the comment section below. Love hearing from you guys, whether it's my Facebook friends or you in YouTube world or Rumble world or wherever you're watching, morning, noon or night. It's lovely that we can be together. It's spirit, soul, body. My brain is running at 1,000 miles an hour. It's hard to believe that Easter is just literally evaporating in the distance moments ago. I hope you had a wonderful Easter celebration with your family, if you were able to get together with your family. Carola and I had a wonderful time and are having a wonderful time. In fact, one of our sons have come down with his partner, and we've just enjoyed this Easter weekend. Of course, Mumschi-lein's in top form. If you've been tracking with me on Spirit, Soul, Body, you'll know that Mumschi-lein is one of my key tasks. And what a joy in our lives. In fact, she was giggling so much on Easter Sunday, Easter Monday at the dinner table, like a little girl. I mean, she's all of 82. I mean, she is the matriarch in the family. She is, as we say in German, our Chefin. She's like, and we treat her with love. She's gorgeous. She's always so thankful and so gentle and bubbly, and sometimes she can be serious, focusing on her puzzle. She loves to do her puzzles and everything else. And she's kind of my task. My task before Mumschi-lein was being the chairman and chief executive and running with 220 amazing guys and girls around the world for some 25 years, building up a Christian television network from a kitchen table all the way to multi 24-hour television channels across some, I forget how many countries there are now, but most of them except maybe South America. On 22 satellites, the whole operation costing around 2 to 3 to 4 million a month, depending on what was going on. So that was my kind of first responsibility for many, many years. And now it's in the heart of Austria. And one of my key tasks is Mumschi-lein. So she was keeping us all smiling this Easter, giggling at the dinner table. Finish that little story. Her grandson Alex, one of Carola's sons. Carola has 2 boys, twins, 5 minutes apart. Alex is the older by 5 minutes. And Alex is looking at his grandmother across the Easter Sunday table, and she was giggling like a little girl. And of course, you know when you break into that uncontrollable laughter? So she would giggle, and then we would all giggle. The table slowly sort of shifted to focus on Mumschi-lein, and then she'd break into laughter. She'd try and hide it. And then everybody else would laugh. And then she would, and within moments we were just all in uncontrollable laughter. And it gave me such joy in my spirit. There's nothing more profound, I think, and I don't fully appreciate it yet. Maybe you're ahead of me on this one. But multi-generational coming together on a regular basis as a family unit. In this crazy world, and I use that term very loosely, so not everything's crazy, but I'm generalizing, But in this world, the mainstream narrative is, let's break down family, let's boost and focus on individualism. How I believe in my mind, spirit, soul, body is what I can be. I can be anything I want to be. And by the way, even according to Scripture, the Bible, you can be whatever you have free will. You can be who you want to be. It's your free will. Do what you want. I think the world that we're living in is trying to figure out how everybody can be whoever they want to be and as crazy as they want to be and as free as they'd like to be, where it doesn't impact and hurt other people. I think that's the challenge that the world faces today. But just coming back to Mumschi-lein giggling on Sunday and this whole concept, profound concept that is older than time itself almost. I exaggerate. But when I'm studying the scriptures here, I find it in right across this book how important family is. Mom, dad, grandparents, grandmother, grandfather, grandchildren, sons and daughters, great-grandchildren. And this Sunday we were multi-generational. We were 3 generations sitting around between Mumschi-lein, Carola, and then her children, our children. And then, of course, we also had Patrick with us as well. So there's such power in multi-generational family coming together. And I think in the olden days, living together. I mean, you'd have grandparents living with their sons and daughters and their grandchildren until they passed and left planet Earth. Let me get to the point. What I found so profound and reappreciated this Sunday is when I use Mumschi-lein as an example, how when she came to us 3 years ago, she had before that been living in her apartment in Salzburg in Austria all by herself. And she'd have a ritual of being alone all day. And then in the afternoon, she'd go to her sister, her eldest sister, who was in an old age home. How she got there is a miracle, okay, with early onset of dementia, etc. A miracle, really. She would go and play in the afternoon some games with her sister and then come back and be on her own all the way through until she next went to her sister. And that would be her day-to-day routine all the way through, except on Sunday she would go off to church. And when Mumschi-lein came to us during COVID 3 years ago, and Carola and I made the decision, and the whole family was happy for this and appreciated it and do appreciate it, she's been living with us in this last 3 years as full-time. But when she came to us, her eyes were empty. She was withdrawn. She was very reserved, timid, one could say, and almost quite fearful. And I'm not saying any of this to embarrass Mumschi-lein. I'm just simply sharing some thoughts with you on this Tuesday, how important multi-generational family units are. A mum and dad in a child's life is super important. But as that child grows up and experiences life and goes from baby to toddler to young person to young adult to adulthood into their marriage with their spouse and having their own children, I think the priority of the family unit traveling together is so important. And I think there is a revival to multi-generational family units. I think there's a hunger for it. Even if you're a young person right now, I encourage you, don't be so quick to get rid of marriage. Don't be so quick to get rid of having a close relationship with your parents and with your parents' parents. And some of you have lost your parents. But then embrace, if you still have your grandparents around, embrace it. Embrace them and be a rich experience in their lives. And I promise you, they will be a rich experience in your life. And so Mumschi-lein coming to us 3-4 years ago was really on her way to passing and to graduating and to leaving the earth, very much alone and extremely withdrawn. But now she's flourishing. Why? Well, in my limited experience, and maybe you're an expert in this area and you can comment below, and who knows, maybe we can interview on Spirit, Soul, Body. Bring your wisdom to the whole community of my viewers. But just from what I see, in Mumschi's last 3 years, she has completely come out of her bubble. In 3 years ago, she would, if anybody came, including family, she would say, no, I think I'll leave the lounge. I'll go upstairs to my room and I'll sit there quietly. Very timid. Now it's completely different. She loves it when strangers come and visit. In fact, last week we didn't just have strangers. We had some of my production crew join me, and I'll show you a little clip in a moment about what yours truly has been getting up to last week. Last week, while you were enjoying Armenia and you were enjoying Mexico with David Vader and, of course, Karen Asatri and talking last week. And if you missed last week's episodes, please tune in and enjoy them, because you're going to get from country rock all the way to, which is David Vader's, and him just sharing his heart with you and I. And you're going to get all the way to me talking to Karen and Asatrian in Armenia. And some of the clips on a project that he and I are doing, some of the video work that I've done, and the exquisite music that he was recording live to his new album, which it's in post-production right now. But just finishing with Mumschi-lein on Sunday, just seeing how she has come alive. She's blossoming. Why? Well, because you've got screaming great-grandchildren now in her world. She's got her grandchildren coming in with their own children, of course. And you've got all of this energy going on, and it's loud sometimes, not always, but sometimes it's loud and everyone's laughing or they're chatting, and you've got energy levels from all these different generations, from the tiny ones who are now learning to talk and talk incessantly, and everything is a question and why. And it's amazing each day, each week, the vocabulary of these little ones just exploding. And Mumschi's living in all of this. She's enjoying it. And sometimes she focuses on her crossword puzzles and she's just in her little chair in the corner of the living room. But it's happening. Life is happening all around her. And then on this Sunday, of course, just seeing her starting up the conversations as the matriarch in the family, and just laughing and enjoying herself. And I made a kind of a rule internally. Number one, I would always give her the option as an older person, 82 plus, struggling with her short-term memory. Long-term memory, perfect, but short-term memory, she can't ask the same question very often in the same hour, particularly if it's something that's bothering her or exciting her. But I made a decision that I would always honor her, because firstly, we're advised in the wise book, scriptures, the Bible tells us, if you want to be blessed in your life, honor your elders, honor your mother and father, that you may have long life. And I wasn't planning to say any of this, by the way, on this Tuesday. It's just you and me hanging out today. Got lots of exciting guests coming together, and I'm really full on in production mode. So I was thinking to myself, what am I going to talk about today? Wasn't planning this, but I'm happy to talk about this with you. And by the way, I'd love to hear your thoughts on multi-generational family units and how we can strengthen them and how important they are in life. Or you might think they're not important. But I'm going through an experience in my world where not only do I see the positive impact, the energy levels changing in my mother-in-law, as I've said 3 times already, 82 years old, and 3 years ago was pretty much ready to give up the ghost and move on to heaven. Now enjoying life. Yes, she's got some aches and pains and she struggles to walk. She's got a pain in her knee. The cancer tumor that she had on her cheek has disappeared. So the infusion treatments that she's been taking, amazing, zoning just in on here, like baby skin here. We've told the story about how a piece of metal that she had put in to stabilize her jaw many years ago disappeared completely. And since it's disappeared, no pain. It's quite a story. I forget which episode on Spiritual Body, but you can go back and see her on my earlier episodes. I think it might be episode 3 or 4 of Spiritual Body. And finishing this thought process, I have no doubt how healthy it's been for Mumschi-lein. Yesterday, Easter Monday, it was a lovely day, fresh outside, but the sun was shining. It was warm enough to enjoy enough sunshine to keep warm, get the barbecue going. So we started, for those of you guys watching me in South Africa, braaivleis. Braaivleis, which means, braai is the Afrikaans word, B-R-A-A-I, is for barbecuing. And vleis is meat. And my now brain's going Fleisch, which is German. I'm struggling with languages, folks. Never mind English. German, really challenging. And of course, Afrikaans. I'm sorry to say, you guys in South Africa who do speak Afrikaans. German is cannibalizing my Afrikaans. So what can I say? Heading towards 60 and keeping the old grey matter together. Yesterday, having a barbecue. We got some ribs on the barbecue, and Carola's son, our lovely Alex, started to get all of that sorted out. I relaxed yesterday, enjoyed myself. Mumschi-lein sitting outside with her hat on, soaking up the sunshine, wrapped up in blankets, very comfortable, enjoying the conversation. We then ended up playing games after lunch. She thoroughly whipped our batushkis. Is the word I made up. Yeah, I know. But whipped our butts. Loves to win, full of competition and vice. So she's alive. She is enjoying. Joy is flowing. She's fully secure. She's loved. She's appreciated. She's accessible. She's with us. And the family comes around from where we're living here in the heart of Austria. Most of the family lives in this town as well. So if it's not here, it's in Vienna. I share that with you as a thought this morning. Honor your parents and your grandparents, if you have them still. Cherish them, love them, spoil them. If you've had problems with your parents, and I only met my father when I was 18 years old. I never knew him in my time in the womb with my dear mother, who went through trauma because he walked out on her before I was born. I never knew a father figure other than stepfather number 1, who was murdered, unfortunately, so I never really had a chance to bond with him. I always felt like I was the outside kid. He was the father of my half-brother and half-sister, and then he tragically was murdered, and that was another trauma in my mother's life. And then my current stepfather, who I adore, truly brought principle into me, although I did not get on with him until for the first 18 years of my life. I always felt he was my stepfather. He was always very strict, very fair, very loving. I actually was super impressed because he's younger than my mother, and how he actually came into our lives. With me, the oldest, my half-brother, half-sister from my mum's second husband, who was sadly murdered. And then my second sister, the fourth, the baby, the cherished one, was his daughter. But he was always extremely fair with us, a wonderful man of integrity, blind, so he had no sight, or very little sight, and it obviously quickly got worse over the years. And but an amazing impact on my life. But he and I he wasn't my father. I didn't connect with him that way. He was my stepfather. I appreciated him. He provided for us. He was a very stable environment. He was tough, just to get a good whipping on our butts every once in a while. Had this leather strap, that comes from a suitcase. Imagine a big old leather suitcase, then imagine the strap made out of cowhide with 2 loops on the end where it would attach to the suitcase. And he would take that with us. And if we get out, he'd give us 3 warnings, which basically is something I carried on with my kids. 3 warnings and you get Mr. Spoon. Warning number 1, warning number 2, Very rarely did my 2 children ever get to warning number 3. It was like, okay, because I made a decision very much that if I got to warning number 3, I'd say, please go up to your bedroom and wait. And they'd go up to their bedroom and wait. And they knew it was coming. Not in the beginning, perhaps, and of course not when they were super young. But when they started to get, I've been naughty, and I realize I've been naughty, I would then say to them, go upstairs and wait. And of course, I might have been really upset with them and bordering on angry. You know what it's like with kids, if you've had them. And they would go wait upstairs, and I would wait downstairs and do whatever else, and then I'd quietly come upstairs. And by the time I got upstairs, I wasn't upset anymore. But I'd said, if we get to warning number 3, you're going to get Mr. Spoon. And I had this wooden spoon. And I would say, hold out your hand. And by this time, I didn't want to give him a punishment anyway. So I had cooled off. They'd pondered on it. And then, I've got my hand up here. And then I would give them with Mr. Wooden Spoon. I'd give them whatever, 2 hard taps. believe you me, you'd feel it and you'd go, that's not comfortable. But no way would it endanger their lives. And it was always done in a spirit of love. And I'd say, no, I'm sorry I'm having to do this, but I'm having to do this. I would tell you what happened with the leather suitcase with the loops on. I'll get to tell you how it happened with me, a different generation of the family, and how it's happened with my kids is what you're hearing at the moment. And oh my goodness me, I'm going back on a journey now. I'm trying to show you a video as well that I did last week, or that was done of us at our work last week, which I will show you in a few moments. I'd be sitting there on the bed with my kid, misdemeanor time. You've broken 3 warnings. I have to let my yes be yes and my no be no. Because if it slips once, your children are never going to believe your word. They're never going to believe that if you say, listen, this is the line in the sand, or when I say something to you where I want you to understand that this is important, they need to know they can trust that you will do what you say, which is, again, why the Bible says to you and I, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Don't promise on heaven. Don't promise on earth. Just be yes or no. And if this planet Earth, if we could all just be true to our yes or to our no, it would be an entirely different place, in my opinion. We can ponder on that. Okay, 3 times with Mr. Spoon or whatever it was, they would feel the discomfort of that, but they'd remember next time. And I hardly ever had to use Mr. Spoon, which is the moral of the story, because my children knew that if you got to warning number 3, you're going upstairs and I'm coming up afterwards, and Dad's going to follow through with what he said. My ex-wife was never, they could get away. She'd fuss with him, and they just had Mom around the finger, but not Dad. So I was one of those dads. They knew yes, but I was also quite relaxed in other ways. And but I was very much a parent. I wasn't so. Now I'm a friend. That's interesting, isn't it? As they've now matured, they've got married, they've moved on, they're planning to have their own children. Now I'm an advisor. I'm a source of wisdom. I'm a friend. Of course, I'm still Dad. And they know they can come and rest with me. There's times when I hear from my daughter, and she will share with me, and I'm Dad, and she will lean against me, knowing that I'm her dad and I'm there for her. So yeah, wow, I wasn't planning to say any of this on the spirit soul body, but it's a very important part of our spirit soul body experience. Our children, or our parents, or our grandparents. I know you want to hear it. But I'm first going to show you what we were doing last week. We'll play a little video, and then I'll talk about a leather suitcase strap with 2 loops on it. And then I'll finish back up with Mumschi-lein in terms of our barbecue yesterday. So we're just hanging together. Thanks. I appreciate your time. And I hope you get something of value, or it provokes some thought, or, hey, maybe you've got some insight onto multi-generational family units and how important. I think they're super important. Let me have your thoughts. I look forward to that. And this is another kind of family for me. I've worked with some new crew, and I'm working with some of my older crew that worked for me for 15, 20 years, who are freelancing now and worked with me on this project last week in Austria. So I'll lay a little down, a sort of a little video here. It's something they made, just a little background of behind the scenes of last week. And then we carry on talking about families, whether they're blood-related, multi-generational families, or even if you've got a work environment or a social structured family in terms of churches and whatever you like to do outside of your work or your immediate family. Let's have a look at this video. there doing some amazing drone work with Steve-O, my director of photography, the two of them setting up the cameras there. Great team, wonderful. There I am sitting on the couch looking all gentrified. Just working in the client's room. We had a day of setting up, and then of course we ended up filming for a full day, then did a lot of exterior shots as well. Beautiful part of Austria, unbelievably glorious. Still fighting the last little bits of winter. Spring is popping its head around. The day after that, it started to snow. So just a lot of beauty all around, and then an excellent project. And for me, that's kind of a family as well. I think of all the years of production and working with teams and crews around the world, and some of the challenging times we went through, the exciting times, filming in the Serengeti in the heart of Africa, and experiencing God's creation, his nature, the beauty all around. Filming in some of the oldest slums in the world, in the capital cities of the world, and experiencing the challenges of people's circumstances, their poverty levels. And I've had the privilege of dining with prime ministers, presidents, a king or queen thrown in there. And I don't say that to boast. I just simply say that I've traveled with my work family for many, many years to many countries and experienced extraordinary things. And I'm grateful for that experience. And the bond of the team just in this last year, as I keep in touch with them, last years that I've really been here at one point in time, just touching base with them and them remembering when. And I'll bring some of them on to talk on Spirit, Soul, Body and some of our past experiences when we almost died in Death Valley, I call it. We once decided to go from the Dead Sea, the shores of the Dead Sea, which is the lowest point on earth in Israel, and walk all the way up to Jerusalem with all of our camera gear, and do stops along the way. So we'd like, okay, we'll stop at the caves of Qumran, and we'd film where they discovered parchments and ancient texts from scripture that had been buried there around the time of Jesus. So talk about the Bible being there in big chunks, both Old Testament and New Testament. And filming in those caves of Qumran, and the videos were stunning, and we would say there was an atmosphere, an anointing on them. But if you'd been with me, with my crew family in that cave, the Israeli guide says, do not sit on anything. It's full of bat guano, bat dung, and it's really dangerous. And if you get infected, you could get encephalitis, etc., etc. Some kind of horrible disease in the brain, plus. You're filming, I'm reading out of a Bible, perhaps even this very Bible, and you're in this cave, it's super hot, it's 54 degrees outside, and inside, while you're reading the Holy Scriptures, the stench of those bat droppings was unimaginable. I kid you not. If you'd had smell-o-vision, there would be nothing pleasant about what you'd be watching, because your nose would just be screwing your brain. Now imagine reading the Bible and wanting to pray with people at home. And then we continued on that day and on that week, we continued up and we entered this Death Valley, because there's mountains between the Dead Sea, and you go up. The mountains are pretty mountainous, they're not huge, but enough. And then you get to the Judean hills, and then you move up to Jerusalem, but it's always going up. And there was a valley we entered with our guide, and I think he didn't fully appreciate that we were going to be stopping and filming along the way, because we wanted to talk about David escaping from Saul and all of these dynamics, and then moving through up to Jerusalem, blah, 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 blah. 54 degrees or something like that. I'm wearing jeans. Yes, I know. As they would say in Yiddish or Israeli mashuga, I was like, pfft. In fact, the guide at one point said, your proteins are boiling, literally. You need to put some shorts on immediately. By this time, it's midday, noon sun. We've run out of water. Everyone's still working. Crazy, crazy. I'm not going to bore you on this Tuesday with this drama, but I'm saying that to say I've traveled and experienced. Oh, I got to finish that story. And then they finally rescued us. It was either going to be bring a helicopter and pull us up, or grit through, and everyone as much as they could. And we were all shapes and sizes. So some of us were a little more overweight than others, and others were a little thinner. Didn't matter. If you were thinner, you could run out of salt and energy, not enough water. And you'd say, well, Rory Alec, how on earth could you do that? Well, I think it was just enthusiasm, and then not realizing it would be so relentlessly hot and stuck, and you couldn't get out of that canyon. By the way, you couldn't film in that canyon in winter either, because of flash floods somewhere up in Jerusalem. It just rained a little. It concentrates all the water down into these gullies, or these valleys, or these ravines, or however you want to phrase it, and water would come screaming at you, and you'd also be taken out. In fact, there are a number of deaths that happen every year in Israel with flash floods. So it's dangerous in winter and it's dangerous in summer. It's just dangerous. We finally got out of there at the end of that day, and I remember how when we looked at one another as a crew family, everyone had salt caked on their faces, which came out of our human bodies. We were so thirsty that all we wanted was just to drink water. And it was the first time in my life that evening that I fell in love with pickles. Pickled gherkins. I remember it as clearly right now as I'm talking to you as when I first decided I needed this. And my body was just wanting the salt. It wanted the liquid that was around these pickles, and I think I must have eaten a whole jar. And that night, with broken bodies, after realizing that we all knew we could die, and I think we probably all our bodies all started to move into a process of. And the guide finally, who's a tough Israeli soldier, realized, okay, he's got a problem on his hands. He's got a crew of 7 or 8 people here who are not ready for this. They're not trained for this. And they're stopping all along the way. They're not just walking up the valley so that it's a much shorter period. They're stopping along the way to do literally podcasts or to do episodes that we were doing for GODTV at the time. So it was really an extraordinary experience, but one that bonded us as a crew family completely. The same way that Mumschi-lein giggling on a Sunday, an Easter Sunday or an Easter Monday, and just laughing and in our own security and our own blessedness was bringing warmth and radiation of blessing to us as the whole family sitting around. So extraordinary. I say to me today, and I encourage you today, honor your mother and your father, that it may go well with you, that you may have long life. This is a promise from our Creator. No, I'm not talking about the universe. The universe will give you what the universe is going to give you as well. But the universe was created by Him, and that's who I'm talking about. Honor your mother and your father, and then throw in your grandparents. And, of course, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Let your yes be yes, your no be no. These are simple things to say. True. Very easy for me to say. But Rory, you don't understand the trauma I've gone with my parents, through with my parents. You don't understand the abuse that's come from my parents. Yes, this is all very severe, and there's all of these dynamics as well. But as you pursue Him, as you pursue your calling, as you lean more against Him and step out and take baby steps to perhaps an embracing and an honoring of your parents, no matter what they did to you or how they did to you. Because there comes the forgiveness dynamic as well. Because it is for our sakes when we let go, when we forgive, more so than the person we're forgiving. It is us who are in bondage by that hurt and that unforgiveness, that bitterness or that pain that we're holding on to. But if we forgive, even if it's and it is difficult, and just say, Lord, help me forgive. Help me to release that person, forgive them, even though they do not deserve it. And it is for your well-being. Your soul benefits, your spirit benefits. Chains drop off. These, I say that metaphorically. They fall away. And it's the same when we honor our parents, when we love them, even if they don't deserve it. They may never return that love to you. You may never reconcile fully, and I speak to those who have had difficult relationships with your parents. Or you may be amazed because as time moves on, hearts soften or can soften. And it may take one little movement of you and I towards those that have hurt us in the past, and suddenly it just opens up and there's a reconciliation. And I think that's wonderful. I think about my mum-in-law, Mumschi-lein, that for many years, because of her divorce from her husband, Carola's dad, the family loved to be around my friend Walter. They also enjoyed to be around their grandmother or their mother, Mumschi-lein. But there was always a pull because of the divorce of mum and dad. That family always had to make a decision. It was never where everyone could be together. And that's the tragedy of divorce. And I speak as a divorcee. But for many years, she was always the one that didn't get to enjoy the family at Christmas because they'd all be at Walter's place, at Carola's dad's place, for Christmas and for New Year, and it'd be all the gathering of the family. And then Walter went to be with the Lord. He passed at the age of 77, so that's about 3-4 years ago now. And since then, Mumschi-lein's lived with us, and I never knew my mum-in-law. In fact, from the time I was married to Carola, Mumschi-lein didn't want to know me. She was like, because she loves God, but she's also been brought up in a very religious environment. So I think she had a bit of a fear for me in terms of RORY ALEC was from this ministry, and he's this big guy, so to speak. I'm not, and I wasn't, I don't think. That is to say, what I did for the last 25 years was unimportant. It was very important to many people's lives. And I waxed lyrical on this Tuesday. I'm going to wrap it up now, but thanks for hanging with me. And just to finish up with Mumschi-lein, she got the short end of the stick, in my opinion. Loved by her family, but she just didn't get that special time. And now I'm excited for her because she's in the thick of the whole family, and she's the one everyone's revolving around to some degree. I mean, everyone's busy with their lives, don't get me wrong. Whether it's the grandchildren or whether it's the children, everybody's busy, or the great-grandchildren busy growing up because they're all little guys and girls, but so sweet, so cute. And Mumschi-lein, she gets the blessing now, and she's living with us, and she's looked after, and she's loved. So I know this may be unimportant to some of you on this Tuesday, but I'm just sharing my heart with you. It's my podcast. I'd love it that you're hanging out with me. I'd love to have your thoughts on multi-generational families. And I'm going to wrap with this thought that it's something that I believe, and I hope, I pray on planet Earth that more and more people embrace mum and dad, grandfather, grandmother, that we all can come together more regularly in the year. Let's start with this month. Let's start with this year and have the benefit of that. And if there are pains and bitternesses and unforgiveness, my prayer genuinely is that there is a resolution, or that you have enough courage to step toward, that I have enough courage to bring about a reconciliation in a multi-generational dynamic, so that we can honestly be blessed personally, each one of us, you and I, and we can be a blessing and receive the benefit from multi-generational family. I've loved hanging out with you. I wasn't planning to say any of this. I had something else in mind, but I'm glad that I shared this with you. I hope it's something that has encouraged you, or given you something to think about. And by the way, if you're an expert on any of this, help me. I'm always open to learn. I look forward to that. Thank you for watching. I'm going to catch up with you on Thursday. I'll be back here. Who knows with what? With who? It's a surprise to me even today. I am super busy in my production, so if you think about me, put some good thoughts upwards and say, Lord, give him strength, give him wisdom, and bless his hand. I'm going to unashamedly ask for that. I would love to be blessed, spirit, soul, and body. And my prayer is that you are blessed, spirit and soul, body. Remember, you've got one life, you've got one body. Make the best of what you have in Jesus' name. Talk to you soon. Till next time, lots of love and a big God bless you from me, Rory Alec.